So welcome to Conversations with Tenzin. So today I have Professor Aneeta. So thank you for doing this with me today.
My pleasure. Aneeta Gokhale Benninger. My maiden surname is Gokhale. I am a Maharashtrian from Pune. Gokhale doesn't have any meaning.
Okay.
It is a surname.
Okay.
It's a very common surname in Maharashtra. Like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who was Gandhi's political guru, we used to call him. So the same surname as us. And we are from actually the west coast of India, from Konkan. So a lot of things that we do are because of the way we must have grown from Konkan. We migrated. I'm a fourth generation Punekar.
Okay.
And somebody just made a distinction the other day. They said Puneris and Punekars. And this person was from Pune. So he was saying Puneris are the people who are from Pune. And they have particular characteristics. And Punekars are the people who have migrated to Pune and they want to become Puneris. So they are in a transition phase. So I'm a Puneri. And then we have these, what shall I say, strange characteristics. We are argumentative.
Okay. You call that strange?
Yes.
I think
it's I don't know whether it's good or not, but we are argumentative and we'll always say it doesn't matter. It's a matter of principle. You know, whether we are going to win, lose, what doesn't matter. We'll say it's a matter of principle. So what happens is with a background like that, you end up taking up some causes. You are sort of oriented towards that. So issues and causes, you go looking for them, even if, nobody thinks of those. So it's a little different mindset.
So it's something to do with when you see something that is not just around you, you try to
Yes.
make things right,
You
something
try,
like that.
yeah. Because it's a matter of principle. It should be right. Whether it's you're going to make money, lose money, it doesn't matter. It's the principle that matters. You'll find a lot of people from Pune who are like that. So it has always given, what shall I say, it has given an intellectual leadership to India, historically. So lot of social reforms also took place from Pune. It was Pune people who started the social reform, like women's education, remarriage of widows, all those kinds of things which were taboo before for Hindus. There were reformations took place, and most of the times they were spearheaded by men from Pune.
So right now you're running this wonderful institution called Center for Development Studies and Activities, CDSA in Pune. So did you always want to be in this field? How were you in your when you were younger? How did you get into planning, urban planning?
It was very strange. My mother was a gynecologist, a very eminent gynecologist, and she was born in 1917. And she did her MBBS in 1942 and her MD.
So that was before independence.
MD in 1945, long before independence. So she worked with the British. I mean, she was taught by a lot of British people were there or people who had trained in Britain who came in. So she worked from 1945 as a honorary at Kama and All Bliss Hospital in Bombay. And then she came to Pune. It was a coincidence because my father was a member of the Communist Party of India. In those days, there was only one Communist Party of India. There were no Marxist and other. There was no breakup between the parties. So, Communist Party of India, he started working for them from the student movement. He joined the Communist Party, and then he was a whole timer of the Communist Party. So, in 1942, when the Quit India movement was going on, he was arrested by the British and put in jail for 2.5 years. So he was in jail for 2.5 years. And actually it was very strange. He was doing his MSc at that time at the Royal Institute of Science in Bombay. and he was working, his thesis was going to be on the common fly. So he was arrested from his laboratory. Actually, he was a brilliant scholar, he was a zoologist by training, and he stood first in Bombay University amongst all disciplines when he passed his BSc. So he was what is known as a Dakshina Fellow. So it's a very unique position, very few people get it. And from all branches, if you stand first, I mean, there are 4 or 5 people maybe who will achieve that in 1 year. And so he was a Dakshina Fellow. So then he was arrested when he was doing his master's. So there was an article in the papers that if this brilliant guy who is a Dakshina Fellow, how could he be doing anything else, you know? He can't become a Dakshina Fellow unless he was spending time. But anyway, he was doing work for the party at that time. And so he was arrested, he was in jail for 2.5 years. So he got out in 45, 46. And so then he met my mother. And then they decided to get married. So I think they got engaged on 15th August, Independence Day.
Oh, wow.
1947.
That's a really nice story.
It was very funny. And so I come from this sort of a background. My grandfather, my father's father, was a very eminent lawyer. And he was also General Secretary of the Indian National Congress. So in our house, that atmosphere was there, the political atmosphere. That you fight for independence, that you do this, that is. In fact, the way we were brought up was that you come from privilege, right? So it is your duty to make sure that you work for the less privileged people.
And you use it for the good.
You have to, because you are fortunate. It's not like something you have achieved.
Yes.
Right? You're born with that privilege. So my father joined the Communist Party. His older sister, she was also a very eminent member of the Communist Party. And in 1935, she started fighting for the rights of the tribals in Thana district. They were called Varlis. And she got them out of their bonded labor. So she got them out of that bondage. So she worked for that. That was her whole life. She used to be the president of the All India Kisan Sabha also. Kisan Sabha is the Farmers Association of the Communist Party. So she was his older sister. Then his younger brother was also a member of the Communist Party. And his youngest sister was also a member of the Communist Party. So my grandfather had 8 children. Out of that, 4 became communists. And he was himself a congressman. But it was a politically aware, and they believed in participating in the political struggle in politics. And my mother's family, my grandfather on my mother's family side, the great-grandfather also, they built railways for the British. And so they completely rags to riches story. My grandfather's father, actually they were quite poor, and they came from Konkan to a place near Pune as they did puja, in a Shiva temple. They came as the pujaris of the Shiva temple to a place called Kivre. And so they were brought by one of the Sardars of the Peshwas who ruled Maharashtra at that time. And so they came and they were there, and they had a couple of acres of land, not much. They were given some land to build a house, and this is what they did. Quite poor. And lots of children, and as usual. So one of the daughters of that house, she was married and she came to live in Pune. And she told her father that if these boys have to do anything better than what we can't, everybody cannot become a Shiva temple Pujari. So one can become. What about the rest? So she said, you send them to Pune. And they can stay with me. I have a house. And they can go. We have a system that the Brahmin boys, after their thread ceremony, when they are studying, it is all right. The Buddhists also have this, to go and beg for food. So they all had their thread ceremony performed. They came to Pune and they started studying. So my great-grandfather, there were a lot of British in Pune at that time. I mean, so they taught him quite a bit of English. So he was very good in English. And so then one of his brothers, who was not very good in English, but who had a good business brain, he said, let's take a subcontract. Because the railway line was being laid because the Prince of Wales was coming. So they got a subcontract of carrying the rails and taking them to a place where they were going to be laid. They didn't know anything about railway building at that time. But they observed and they learnt the job. So then my great grandfather's brother said, let's try to get the subcontract. And that's how they got. He said, you speak English, you go and talk to the person, the British officer, and I will do the rest. So they got their first contract. Then they built railways all over. They went to Burma, built railways. They were there for 10 years.
So they were specialized.
Specialized. They were even invited to Nepal.
Okay.
The king of Nepal invited my grandfather. My grandfather went as a consultant to see if you could build railways in the Himalayas. Because there was only that small train to Darjeeling.
Yes.
And a small train to Simla.
That's what I heard. It's a young mountain and then it's not stable.
No, it's not stable. It crumbles. So my grandfather said, no, you can't build railways. So Nepal, you don't have railways.
Even Bhutan.
In Bhutan.
Yeah.
So that's what my mother's family did. They were railway contractors. Both families were quite wealthy. So we came from privilege and we were told that don't take it for granted.
When I met you, I heard so many stories about your association with Bhutan and so many interesting stories. So how did you first get associated?
So
and what was the story?
Yeah,
How
I'll
was
tell
it
you
luck?
It was luck, total luck. It was very strange. I met Christopher when I went to, I'm basically a geographer. My mother was a doctor, and so there was small pressure on me to become a doctor because she had her own hospital, she had a reputation, and as a daughter, I would have inherited that. So my father used to say, why don't you think of becoming a doctor? And I said, there is no way I can become a doctor because I don't think I'll be able to dissect anything. So I said, I'm going to fail in the dissection of cockroach, frog,
Yes.
earthworm. These are the 3 dissections you had to do. And I said, I'm never going to pass. So please don't push me to do this. So he said, no, I'm not pushing you. I'm just suggesting. And my mother used to say that medicine is a vocation. It's not a profession. It's not a business. It's a vocation. So if you feel it from inside that you want to do it, then you should do it. Otherwise, no. So I had parental support to do whatever I want. So I decided to study geography. And I didn't want to do science because there was no geography there. They had physics, chemistry, maths,
Yes.
and biology, botany, zoology.
Yes.
But for arts, they allowed economics, geography, history, etc. So I said, I will do, no matter what, I'm going to do geography. So I took arts. It was a very funny incident. Actually, I was standing in line, Ferguson College, to fill out my form, to give in my filled form. And the clerk who was there, the head clerk, who was checking the forms before admitted students, read my name and he said, aren't you, he's related to my mother. So he said, aren't you her daughter? And I said, yes. So he said, and then why are you standing in this arts line? Why aren't you in the science line? I said, because I want to do arts. So I said, okay, I will check. Give me your mother's number. So I gave him my mother's telephone number. So he called up my mother. And so he spoke with her. And then he told the entire line. He said, I spoke with her mother and her mother says, I am not creating a dynasty. I did what I wanted to do. Let my daughter do what she wants to do.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. And so give her the form.
Okay.
So that's how I got admitted to arts in Ferguson College.
And then you could pursue geography.
Yes, I could pursue geography. Then I did my master's in geography. But I wanted to do applied geography. So then I thought that planning is one of we had regional planning while we were doing applied geography, 1 or 2 subjects like that. So I said, that's what I would like to do. So then I applied to Ahmedabad. So the school of planning in Ahmedabad was just starting. Actually, Christopher and Benninger, with whom I started the Center for Development Studies and Activities. He studied at Harvard. He did his MRs from Harvard, architecture. He's an architect planner. And then he was studying planning at MIT.
MIT does.
Yeah. So he was registered for a PhD with Professor Rodwin. And then Doshi, architect Doshi, B.V. Doshi, invited him to come and start the School of Planning. They had known each other. So he asked Christopher, would you like to come and start the School of Planning? So he said, yes, he would like to start the School of Planning. So he encashed his credit, took an MCP, Master of City Planning, and came to Ahmedabad. And I'm from the inaugural batch of that school, first batch.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's how we did planning. So, and I, I think I'm very fortunate because that's what I wanted to do.
And how did this lead?
To Bhutan.
Yes.
So I did planning, then we decided to get married. So in 1975, I got married. Then we said, let's start something on our own. So both of us wanted to start something on our own. So we didn't want to do it in Ahmedabad because everybody was friends, and then we didn't want to get into competition or fights or, no, we didn't want that. So we decided to come to Pune because I'm from there. And anything you want to start, you are going to need contacts.
Yes.
You need entries everywhere. So Pune is my place, and we had a lot of contacts. So we came to Pune. In 1976, we started the Center for Development Studies and Activities. A whole team of us came from Ahmedabad, actually. There were 6 of us who came. And so we started that. Then in 1978, we got our first UNICEF project.
Okay.
And that was to prepare a area development plan for Ratnagiri district. It was called IADP Ratnagiri, Integrated Area Development Plan for Ratnagiri district. And that was a big hit. People liked it. So then we became
Sought after.
There was a regional planning officer. At that time, the South Central Asia office of UNICEF was located in Delhi. And planning, there was a regional planning officer, Professor Satish Prabhasi, who's a very eminent scholar, everything. He was in charge. And he understood. We understood what he wanted, he understood what we were doing. So we really hit it off. So we became like the technical cell of UNICEF at that time, doing planning. So we used to meet Satish all the time, and we did district plans for, worked in Goa, we worked in UP, we worked in Maharashtra, of course, and all over the place. And we did training for UNICEF people, everything. So we used to meet Satish all the time. So Satish had this big map of Bhutan in his office, behind him. He used to sit here, and then he had Bhutan. So he was the officer in UNICEF who was a Nepali. So he was starting to enter Bhutan. So he had Bhutan and Mongolia. So we would look at that map, and then Christopher and I would talk to each other and say, wouldn't it be great to go and work there? So it was very fun. We were talking to each other, and we were talking about this. And then Sati said, what are you saying? So Christopher said, I want to work there. So he remembered that. And then I think within 6 months, he said, are you people serious? Would you like to work in Bhutan?
Are you still interested?
Yes, and we said, we are very interested. By that time, he had spoken to the government of Bhutan people, spoken to the government of India people, and they were agreeable to our institution coming and working in Bhutan. And we met everybody, and we traveled all around Bhutan. We went to Tongsa, we went to Tashigang, we went to Shemgang, like that, all around Samchi and Phuncheling, of course, and then came up to Thimphu, met people, Dasho Lampenjor, and Dasho Pema Wangchuk, and there was a guy called Okuchering, and so many people we met. and had a great time. We liked each other. They liked us. We liked them. And then we
There was a
decided
good rapport.
good rapport. Then they said, give us a proposal. So we sat down and we wrote a proposal for 5 years because they asked us to work as the technical cell of the. They were just going to start a planning commission. So they said, we'll work as a technical cell of the Bhutanese Planning Commission for 5 years. And it was like we would have a team there working, and there will be officers coming from Bhutan government, from the RCSC actually. So 40 people came like that, and they studied at CDSA.
CDSA. So that's exact count, 40 numbers?
40. So they went back, and then they went back into their, like you are doing here in Spurs.
Yeah.
And you will go back to your department and work there. So that was the idea. They got this fellowship to come to CDSA to study and to go back and work in Bhutan.
So 40 people in how many years?
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
So first batch was only six or seven. Then there were more or less, but we had 40 students from Bhutan for 5 years.
This is very interesting.
So for us, like it's a second home.
Yeah. I know, that's why you call yourself honorary Bhutanese.
Bhutanese, yes, absolutely. Because I mean, one of my students became the mayor of Thimphu. So she was very good, Ladan Pema. Then Dechen Chodan, there were 2 girls in that batch. Then there was a guy called Pelzang, Mangchuk. I don't remember now all of them.
It's going to be very difficult to track 40 people.
It's wonderful working in Bhutan, and we learned so much. I mean, the learning curve is enormous, phenomenal, really.
Thank you so much for taking time today and talking with me.
It was fun.
Yeah, and the next question that I have is, looking back to your life, what are some of the advice that you can give to all the youngsters who are, trying to pursue what we want? We are all passionate to help others, like you said.
Yeah. If you want to do something, really, what shall I say? See, there are different ways of working in life, right? You can be a mid-level person, and you will do well. You'll have a lot of security. Like you'll have a proper salary, you will have holidays, everything is laid out, and it's safe and secure. The second thing is being innovative and becoming a leader in your profession. And there are always risks attached to that if you want to do that. And you may not get paid very well, and you won't get vacations. You will spend a lot of time worrying about things. But it's very rewarding in other ways, because you will see what you want to happen on the ground. So that is very important to me. I prefer that. And it's always a leap of faith. So don't be afraid to do that. You can do it. You are very young just now. Say for the next 20 years you can do it. Then the second thing, the safe, cushy thing, you can do after you are 60. Okay. But now is the time when you can do the leap of faith. You have energy, you have enthusiasm, you have ideas. And you are very fortunate you are here. Because what Spurs has done for you, what I, as an observer, I can imagine, is that it has put you on the world map. You are now just out of your little microcosm of the country, and you have gone worldwide, because you got your cohorts are from all over the world. And what you need to do is work together to make the world a better place. Because ultimately that is what are we here for on this earth. What shall we do? I think so. Don't be afraid. There will be reverses. You will have some failures, some successes. It doesn't matter. But in the end, you will achieve what you want to do. Actually, we got this great advice from Vikram Sarabhai, eminent scientist. You can read him up.
Okay,
He
Vikram
was
Sarabhai.
he was the father of the Indian space program
Okay.
and the atomic energy program. He was like with Baba. He worked together. What he told Christopher when Christopher first came to Ahmedabad, and he unfortunately died very young. But just before we were going to be thinking of starting, Vikram Bhai told him, he said, "See, Christopher, in India or in Asia, nothing goes from A to B to C to Z
Okay.
in a straight path.
I think I can understand. Yeah.
You will understand, okay?" So he said, start not one thing at a time, start 4-5 things at a time. Okay? And when this is, one of them is always moving. If 2-3 things are stalled, push the 2 that are moving. So at the end of 5 years, you will have all 5 things done. So I will give you the same advice, and I will say it is, don't be happy with just one thing, because then you can get frustrated because it stalls. We have red tape, we have all
Yes.
kinds of things. And we must, because why not? I mean, it's our government ultimately. So it's much better to have more things.
To close the conversation, the last question that I have is you're still so passionate about work. I want to know what motivates you to do the things that you're doing, and it keeps you going. So, what is your motivation?
I think I enjoy it.
Okay.
I like challenges. And I like to understand things, how things are working. And I like teaching also. So I enjoy my teaching job and I enjoy my research job. And I also enjoy my activist job.
Okay.
Because we are Center for Development Studies and Activities.
Yes.
So we do our activism that we do, which is evidence-based, is sanctioned by our institution, right? And so I enjoy that also, working with people. So the Hill movement that I spearheaded was one of the most enjoyable times I had in mine. I mean, I had in my life, because what happened was I could channelize my anger in a very positive way. By building this movement, helping build this movement called Green Pune Movement. 90,000 people, 350 NGOs. I don't know how many more people peripherally started joining our movement. And we were able to work to save the hills of Pune. We were able to participate in the decision-making process. So these sort of challenges I enjoy. So I think I like my work. That's why I'm enthusiastic about it.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is usually what happens is in Bhutan or in any other country, after people retire, they say, I'm done with work, and they just sit at home and do nothing, and then just feel
But
old.
you know something,
They don't
I
move.
think it's very sad that people are made to retire at the age of 60.
Okay.
That is when you have really learned a lot.
But some people look forward to retirement, I'm done
Somewhere.
with this job.
I think what happens is, when you start your job, you know that you're going to retire at 60.
Yes.
If you are doing a job.
Okay.
If you are an entrepreneur, and I think we are entrepreneurs, institution builders. When you are entrepreneurial institution builder, you're not thinking of retirement. You're thinking of where you can take your institution. But that institution is built because of work that we do. The reputation of the institution is based on the people who work there. So when you do that, then you're not thinking of retirement. I mean, I would also like to retire and do something else, rather than do administration. So people who retire at 60, especially administrators, it's very tiring, administrative jobs. But if you tell them that, okay, let's do something exciting, like let's write something on how our constitutions will function, or what kind of research we should do in order to do something, I think they'll be very excited and they'll contribute in a huge way because they have so much experience that the contribution is phenomenal.
So thank you so much, Auntie.
You're welcome.
I think we can talk for hours and hours.
We can.
So thank you so much for listening to Conversation with Tenzin. This is the reason why I'm doing the podcast. I meet a lot of wonderful people in my life, and I want to remember the people and their stories. So thank you so much for listening to Conversation with Tenzin.